What did you do?
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, no problem. Are you good if I do a roll call while
Yes.
we're on record? Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And do we typically do the roll call or? Roll call? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start at the end. Robert? Heidi? Here. Meryl?
Present?
Kelsey? Here. Glenn?
Here.
Jenny? Here. Crystal chair here. All right, then we'll go to the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, open the floor for agenda consideration, if you've had a chance to look at it. Motion we accept the agenda as presented. Consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Hearing no first and a second, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Do we have any public comments? No public comments, moving down. Board communication. Okay.
And it's interesting that the Diesel Director of Student Services, that's like her and I combined.
Okay.
So do you have the slide presentation?
PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Which one is that?
the first one worked. Yeah.
Which item number are we?
Right there,
Item number 2.
summer school, right there. Okay, yep.
There you go. That's okay.
Yep. All right. Okay, so those of you, I think you guys all know, it's Cheryl Dyer, Director of Student Services.
Irma Patton, I'm Director of Equity, Inclusion, and our Title Purpose.
And we are presenting for Desiree today. Okay, so we're just gonna do a really quick board shout out for you all, just for some information on summer school, because we are going into week 3 of summer school. So you can go to the next slide. And so we wanted to give you a little bit of information around how many kiddos we, oh, that's not connected to that one. Can you go to that one too? Slide 3 on that. No, oh, over there. So they can see it.
He's trying.
I don't understand why it's slightly different on this.
Okay. So behind you. Next slide, great, sorry.
I don't look behind this one.
Okay, so we've served 197 students, which also equals to almost 8,000 meals served. We have transportation to and from school provided. It's 80 hours of additional instructional instruction for K-8, and there's the 4 weeks, like I said, we're in week 3 of that. Some highlights: PE, field trips, social emotional learning, art, functional academics, AVID, a bunch of just activities. One thing I wanted to highlight about this is the middle school. Let's shout out to middle school. Their attendance has been over 90%, and the 10% that hasn't been consistent is usually like family vacation type things, or one-off type situations. So attendance has been amazing for summer school, and the kids are really engaged. Exciting stuff there. Next slide.
And we also have our migrant summer school going. And we have 35 students who are being served in that program. We have our high school program, which was a collaboration with the academy that we have, which is Willamette Career Academy, in Salem that partners with us. And so some of our high school students attended that. It was really great because they had some training that they wouldn't typically have access to. So we did have cosmetology, we had barbering, we also had manufacturing, which was electrical wiring. We had a welding program, we had a designing program, and then we also had 3D printing with that. So it was really great to see our students really engaged doing those hands-on, that hands-on learning over the summer. We provided transportation from their home to the program each day, and meals were also provided for that. In our migrant AVID program, we have 20 half days that we have for students. So and just in the morning time is that program, and it's part of the middle school AVID program that's going on at the exact same time. And we have our elementary program. So our kindergarten through 5th grade students are attending that program, and it is 10 full days. So we are in week 2 right now, and that focus is reading and mathematics, and then also our science program. So they've had an opportunity to do one field trip to OMSI with some of the hands-on learning opportunities they've had there. And it's been really exciting. We actually had a visitor today from Willamette ESD come in and just, go through the classroom and see what students were doing. And he thought it was great. Our programs are really strong for our migrant students in the summer. And so it's a joy for them to be able to come and visit our classrooms. For students who were not able to, our migrant students who were not able to attend one of the summer programs, there is home support for our migrant students directly at their home through Willamette ESD. And so it's just been really, really great and fun to see all of the things that are happening and all the learning for students.
All right, we have 71 kindergartners on site as of today. 4 days, 3 hours each day for this week. And so we have 6 teachers here for Kindergarten Jumpstart, actually 7. We have a supported kindergarten classroom also. So 7 classrooms. We've got kiddos learning how to just navigate through the building and how to do recess and getting to know each other and being in a school new setting. So we have some exciting 5-year-olds, excited 5-year-olds on site as well. And there's some actual pictures from this morning of some of those little guys on site. So, and then the next 2 slides are just additional photos from some of the field trips and activities that our kiddos have been participating. We have I don't even know the number of teachers that have been supporting summer school. So it's usually a week or more. So we have had so many teachers coming in and supporting the program, and the kids get to work with different teachers. Most of the students, I don't know about middle school, are staying with their student cohort, but then teachers change. So they're with the same group of students for the entire time. But they might rotate through. We have Lego coming in for the primary school. And so each week is kind of a different theme or different activities.
That's the stuff for real fun.
Yeah.
And I also want to add that for our migrant program, we also provide instructional assistance as well to support in the program.
Yeah. It's pretty close. Any questions?
So I will just go around really quick. So Heidi, did you have any comments you want to add?
Yeah, it's great.
Meryl?
You mentioned you didn't know some of the teachers.
No, I didn't know how many.
There's how many.
Yes, there's been a lot of different teachers, and so I don't have the teacher count on how many teachers we've had.
I was just going to ask if they were from outside their system.
Most of them are, we have a few outside of our system, but most of them are employees. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kelsey? What?
So on the stated goals on like your middle school program, are you actually catching up credit, instructional hours towards getting them on track for for a better level? What's that stated mission for?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit different at each level, but it's more of enrichment engagement. Having PE every single day. So as far as like academics getting caught up on things, there's no credits or anything K-8. High school, they did 1 week and then another week next week of credit recovery opportunity for high school credits. But this is, and you can maybe, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, middle school, but K-5 is definitely theme-based engagement. There are academic activities, things like that, but as far as catching kids up and like high dosage triggering those type of things, that's not the main focus, but definitely serving a lot of kids and engagement and connection there.
Well, and we have some learning targets we have language arts for all students. They are moving around to different classes and we're doing the pre and post.
Yeah,
Measurement at the beginning of the 4 weeks and at the end. So with the hope that everyone ends up being a stronger student and that feeling of belonging in the community, which is across the board, something that's necessary right now for most students in the United States and in general, our population, it's pretty exciting to watch them start to make friends. We have the incoming 6th graders in there. And then, so most of the time they're kind of cohorted, but we have a lot of time together and some of the expeditions.
Same K-5. I forgot about the pre and post assessment things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny? Yeah, I've talked to some of the parents whose kids are in it, in the middle school one anyway, and the kids are loving it. Like, they're excited to go to school. So that was really, I was like, oh, so fun.
And I'll just say thank you so much to everybody who did sign up to do Summer's Bowl. And I would echo Heidi that I'm really glad that they got to go to the park. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, guys. All right.
thank you.
I will just add that there were 25 credits given out in June during the 1 week of high school that they had. So they have another next week, more credit. For the high school. So that was done that last full week in June.
Okay, OSBA Summer Board Conference. Heidi, do you want to start?
Yes, I just went for 1 day, but there are a few things that I could share that I got out of it. I went to a hot topics table on chronic absenteeism, and I know we talked about having a working group or something about addressing that. So I thought it was interesting. This was presented by ODE, and they have something there called Everyday Matters. Maybe you're familiar with that, okay? And so that's kind of a focus on addressing chronic absenteeism. They have a lot of resources that I got a whole list of them on this little flyer here that are available, and they have some interesting thoughts on how we can address be looking at chronic absenteeism and working on that. And our ESD will have resources too, and there is some money out there, it sounds like, for different community groups that maybe can help with engaging students on trying to instill that the rigor of school attendance and so forth, the desire to do that, and working with families. I also went to a hot topics table on new diploma requirements for 2027. And that's going to be, all students will be required to have a half credit in personal finance, and a half credit in higher education and career path. And I'm sure that that's something that as I was looking at our policies, we'll need to add that to our policy on our requirements. And then I went to a good, well, it was good. Sometimes, these classes are like, you can move it along a little fast. On data for continuous improvement, and they talked about what an effective school board looks like. A couple of the seminars kind of went over this again, and how effective school boards operate, and how we can use data effectively. And there were some interesting things that maybe we could talk about during our retreat in there that I got. Kind of the idea about, we don't really talk about on school board like ROI, return on investment, like, we have programs, we have testing, we have different things we do. What are we really, what kind of assessment are we getting out of it as far as like, what are we seeing for investment of resources and time and so forth? And talked about some data that I think would be interesting, if we could see, specific data that we could see more, maybe on school board ourselves, and we can talk about that, later. And finally, oh, there was a lunch discussion, during lunch, there was a talk about, when our constituents don't see eye to eye. And that is certainly happening in our community and our country and everything else. And really, it's just, you know, focusing on what our core values are and uniting around our principles. And it always comes down to, you know, when we're having disagreements, the fact that we're all here for kids, no matter what. And that we all care about our kids, and we just kind of build from there in building unity and finding common ground. And I also liked the superintendent from Beaverton was there, and he talked about maybe with things coming up in the fall that might be happening in our country and maybe other where might be some disagreements and discord. Just that we have clarity with our staff and our students and our community about what our expectations are beforehand, and that what our responses and values are. And we kind of talk about how we will deal with situations that come up beforehand and work out those processes at a time. And then finally, I took what, no, I'm talking. No. About board governance. And how, I'll share the one item that I thought was good. You know, our board culture, we're modeling behavior for our entire district. And that it can affect district climate. And so we need to always remember, we behave as a board, affects more than just ourselves. Not that there's a problem, just saying, it's good to hear folks. Yeah, and some other things I would say. Thanks.
Thanks so much for sharing, Heidi. I will make a note that Robert joined at 6:20. Meryl?
I hardly know what to say.
She's hard to follow. That was good.
I spent Friday 8 hours, Saturday, or Friday 14 hours, Saturday 8 hours, and Sunday another 3 or 4 at the summer conference, and I took notes. But I spent today immersed in policy, so I didn't review them. I'll just mention a few things. What did you just say? Something about the board? Oh, I know what I was going to say. That the board culture, or the way we get along or don't, has an effect, they tell us, not just on the atmosphere of the school, but actually on student achievement, which surprised me. And they also did a survey of all of us who were there, a room full of people. Well, what are the hot topics or the major concerns? Cell phones was one. And a few of the superintendents flatly said, in our school, no cell phones. Others were of a different opinion, but the other topic, and Heidi mentioned it, is political and the elections coming up. So it's just very much on the front burner in people's minds. Not that it should necessarily be the focus of the school. I don't think it should, but just to share that with you, that's what came out. And I sat through a session that interests me on parliamentary procedure. And again, I have to review my notes. I might have a few more things to add on the 26th, but one thing I came away saying, well, I learned that, is don't so move. Make the motion. You can take that or leave it for what it's worth. That's what he said. It's not originally me.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, so.
So, well, you know, we often we do that. It's easy. A proposition is put forward. We say, the chair says, I would like a motion on this. And they say generally what it is, and we say, so move. I think we do, don't we? For some of us.
Sometimes if we don't want
I
to
see
read the
that,
resolution. again,
Rather than saying, I make a motion that we do this, and then that we should restate the motion or reread it. A lot for the benefit of the secretary. So. Okay. That was one of the things. There are others that he talked about.
Excellent.
Clear communications when it comes to budget. comments about that. In the rural caucus meeting that I stayed late for, they commented how important it is not to take temporary funds and grant monies and use those for staff or ongoing uses, and you get in trouble. So there was an emphasis on that warning, I think, to us. I'll let it rest with that. I was going to tell the story about this. There was a very rotund person there, and I noticed at one of the last sessions, they sat on the floor. And I thought, I'm going to stick around and see how they get up.
Marital.
They had a system, it kind of reminded me of one of my skiers that used to overeat and
Marital.
he used to
Point of
have a
order.
set of children's books at home that had pictures and it said, point out what is wrong with this picture. And one of them that stuck with me was this cow is getting up wrong. They have a system from rocking up and get going. And so did this. They did it with some agility. I was amazed.
We had entertainment too then.
Good one. All right, consent agenda. Do I hear a motion, and has everybody had a chance to look at the consent agenda?
That's just the HR and the minutes, right?
Yep.
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do a vote.
Oh, wait, I had just a quick question on the HR. We've got 5 new hires. Are those replacing positions that were, yeah, okay. Yes, thank you, Linda.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, board action. You need to vote on this side. Okay, so we're adding, I believe, the board retreat and changing the business meeting. Is the board retreat added in this one? No?
No, this is just for our regular business meetings
Okay.
and works.
Okay, so there was a change for the business meeting from September 9th to September 16th. And from September 23rd to September 30th. This is one of our Septembers that has 5 Mondays in it. So, and it's the first week of school, so we're giving them a little extra time. So if I hear a motion, or does anybody like make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move the date change for September.
Are we just voting on the moving of the date, or are we voting on the calendar?
The moving of the
Just
date.
the date, just September.
Is the date
Just September.
September 9th to the 16th, if I clarify right?
Yes, and then the work session would be September 23rd to the 30th. So everything just moves 1 week.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Good, okay. Calling to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. District operations report. We'll open it up to Linda.
Right, there is.
If you want to.
So I'm gonna give you a sort of a financial update for where we're at right now, the week of was it July 29th or 30th, whatever, we got some information on a couple of our allocations, so I want to give you a complete update of where we're at right now. This piece of paper you see in my budget workshop, so I just wanted to update it and figure I'll update it a couple more times throughout the year as the year goes on. So anything in what turned out to be blue, I think it was turquoise, so the lighter blue is updated, so we don't have enrollment numbers, of course, we're not far enough along, but October 1 will be a big date for us. And then as far as went down again by $274,000. We got received revised allocations for our SIA funding, which is our student investment account, and it went down by $82,000 from what we budgeted. Our high school success allocation went down by $81,000. That one ODE is looking into. Everybody's went down because they gave us the wrong numbers, and so for us to be affected by 81,000, just think what St. Kaiser important. Superintendents went straight to Dr. Williams and they're to whether or not they'll do anything about it or can do anything about it, I don't know. But right now we know that money. We pay mostly for people out of those two grants. That's mostly staff. So that's a total reduction of $437,000. Now I did get IDEA allocation late Friday, and we got 20,000 more. So yeah, so this is kind of how it goes this time of year when you get your true allocation. So we'll see how they all come out. We'll still have title allocations to get for sure, and a few other things. We also have full day negotiations coming up on the 14th and 19th. So that we have budgeted the 3.5%. We'll see where that falls and how it goes. And then the bottom section is what we know or don't know. So that's where I updated quite a bit. So the administrators and department heads are aware and they're cutting or saving wherever they can and not spending when they can't. So they're fully aware. We are looking at any position that's open. Do we really need to replace that person or not? The things we're looking at is probably not replacing our records clerk. We didn't have one last year, but we had it in the budget. Half-time position, but it's still money, and the secretaries have picked that up very well, and so we'll continue with that. So those sorts of things we're just being careful about and looking at. If you've been following any of the news, and maybe you heard it at the ALASCO conferences, they're looking at the quality education model. They're looking at a higher state school fund for the next biennium. They're thinking 11.3. I'm on a salary task force, and the senator there is saying, I don't see how to ever get that to that number. They are saying the current service level is going to go up by about 0.5, so we believe we'll get there, but we don't know about this. So there's a lot of things happening and being talked about that we're not sure where to land for North Marion. But time will tell. I'm on plenty of meetings to hear what's up and when things are changing. So hopefully we'll get some good news as time goes on. One thing that we do this time of year is we're getting all the new staff in that have been hired and they're placed on the salary schedule versus where I budgeted that position. So sometimes there's a savings there and sometimes there's not. Sometimes these people cost more than I thought they might, and sometimes they're cost. Most of the time for North Marion, it works out about even. Somebody's hired a lot higher and somebody's hired lower. But I want to make sure we have that. We won't have that for sure until after all open enrollment for OEBB is in, whether or not they take insurance, what that's going to cost us and those sorts of things. So there's a lot that's going on, and we won't have all of our answers until around the 1st of October. And then we know a lot more because it's our enrollment. The other thing that I'm working on, don't have those numbers yet, is we're finishing up 2024. June 30th is at the end of our fiscal year. And where did that ending fund balance that I projected be? Where did I come in there? There's some adjustments that the auditors do that were not done. They come back in September. So again, I won't have that number for sure until late September, even late October. There's a lot up in the air, but we just wanted to let you know where we're financially. You know, we had said back in our budget workshops, it's gonna be a tight year, and it's certainly gonna be a tight year. Let's see where we go. And how we do. We're fully aware that we're watching our things. Any questions for me?
We'll just go around the table. Robert, do you have any questions? Heidi? Thanks. Merrill?
What is the date where they determine the average daily? The student count,
Student count, October 1 is the official date
isn't?
for your enrollment. But enrollment is different than your ADM, which is how they pay the average daily membership. Is how, and then the weighted average daily membership is how. So even if our enrollment, say, is 1,600 kids on October 1st, not all those kids will be here all year long. So you don't get a full count for each of those children. Most of them are, but not all of them. And they come and go. So we're usually around 95 to 98% of our October number. As far as if it's 1,600 figure, you can get, say, 97% of that will be here. That'll be the whole number. And then you have extra weights on top of that come into play.
So what I thought I heard may be correct, that they were saying it goes back to May, at some point in May, where that number is really finally determined, and the payment is based on that.
We get our
That number.
final payment for the prior year in May, we get an adjusted payment for the current year in May, and then we get our projected amount. We don't get any money in May, but they project it in March, and then they usually give us updates, which like this late June update was another update for the states.
And you mentioned the current service level or current funding level. There's a lot of talk about that. There's going to be a concerted effort. They have us role playing how to talk with legislators about. That is lower than it should be. It sounds to me like it got started several years ago at a lower level than it should have been. And so each year with a percentage increase, it just keeps slipping more and more. But anyway,
I'd agree with what they told you.
that looks right from your viewpoint.
Yes, and this has been something we've talked about my whole time working here. We always want a little more, but we're looking at all the other issues in the state of Oregon that money has to take care of. For homelessness, the mental health, all of those things. We're not the only piece of the pie, although we used to be the largest piece.
Kelsey?
Yeah. So you said you guys everyone's real cautious and pinching pennies, but is there any more discussion on like cuts of any other sort or how we're gonna?
Yeah, we've all talked about right now not hiring one of the IAs we had posted and maybe just moving somebody. Well, one school will be down, but the other school will get one. Those sorts of things. We're looking at everything we can look at to make sure we're still running well, and doing the best we can for students, but also being very careful. So average IA costs, I think the average is around $55,000. So that's money. Don't replace me.
And a couple months ago, you were talking about the buses and maybe combining routes and looking into that to save money. Has that been?
I've talked to them about that and asked that we look through where our numbers are. They were wanting to add a route and I said, no, let's not go down that. But that's a fine line because you are reimbursed at a percentage of your total transportation costs. So we're at the 70% level. So if I spend $2 million, I get 70% back in my state school fund. It's already figured in there. So that's an adjustment you have to watch and make. What did I say? What did I tell the state my 70% was going to be for transportation for 23-24? And what did it really turn out being? And then they take a deduction for non-reimbursable miles, which are mostly your athletics. So there's a lot of details that have to be taken care of. And it's not just me, it's everything in the state doing policy. There's a lot to look at. Our biggest number we're looking for is October 1 enrollment. That'll make a difference. See where it goes. We estimated pretty low compared to where we've been because we knew that our kindergarten versus our seniors are a big difference. So I think Bill and I were down, it might be in here, 70 some kids, 72 kids. So if we're wrong and we're only down 62, that's gonna be okay. That's gonna happen, but we don't know that. Anything else?
I would just ask your counterparts out there in other districts, is there anybody who's seeing increasing enrollment yet?
Estacada. Why?
Really? Okay, so there are a few pockets then.
A few, yes, a few.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Otherwise, that's sort of just a systemic issue.
Yeah, I was at the Lasbo Summer Conference in late July and pretty much everyone was talking about the issues that come with declining enrollment over years.
Yeah.
Because they'll fund you at the higher of prior years, weighted ADM or current year, depending on which is higher. But we've been prior year for a long time now, and that's what we have to keep watching. Okay, if we're down 72 kids for 24-25, that's really gonna hit us the following year. Because I can still get paid on prior year if it's higher. Those are the things that are hitting the hardest. That we didn't have the same attendance at our conference, and the people that I checked on that weren't there, you know, hoping they were fine or whatever. No money, not spending any money. But it's the best conference from my job to go to. You get most information and your connections that you can't.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Jenny?
Yeah, well, I think everybody's concerned and that's not, a surprise to be concerned. So my questions are, you know, you talk about we're hoping for some good news. Would the state ever come back and be like, actually, we're giving you way less than what we told you? Would they go further into the whole?
Probably not for our allocations for those two grant funds, but they certainly could for the state school fund. But the state is in pretty good financial health, so I don't see that happening. There was a year when I hadn't been here very long, and what they told us they were giving us, they didn't get in the income they thought, and we lost $1 million. But we lost $1 million 20 years ago. You know, big districts lost a ton, and that was when we had to go to an early exit incentive and make things right. Well, actually, it was before that one. But sorry, it was the 2008, 9, 10. You know, we had to really scramble to make sure we can cover anything, and our ending fund balance went down 300,000.
Yeah, that kind of goes into my next question, because our ending fund balance, or I guess the estimate, is already low this year, when last year the auditors had said that we need to get it up. So how do we go about increasing that? Or
I don't think it's the talk that you have right now. I
Okay.
don't think there's any district in the state looking to increase their contingencies where we put it in the budgeting. So your ending fund balance is X number percent. It just depends on how the year goes. But when you're building your budget for the next year, you want it to be, you want to say, I want to have 6% or whatever that number is. We are at 4.5% right now. I don't think you can expect to build that up for the 24, 25, 26. I just don't think it would be possible with the news that we're getting, you know, she really want to cut.
okay, so sounds like we're kind of just in a holding pattern until October 1, and we find out our enrollment, and then that's when we have maybe the harder conversations about doing some bigger cuts if it's necessary.
Yeah,
It's not,
we-
but-
Dan and the administrators and I will be having those conversations between now and whenever the audit's complete. Information, don't expect it at the October meeting, because we need that number, so then we can plan. So this is not something where you snap your fingers and it's taken care of. It takes a lot of planning to do it well and do it
Yeah, and I think that also, this stresses the importance of trying to reach an agreement with our teachers. We've got 2 sessions coming up, having that. We're optimistic that 2-day-long sessions will get us closer to reaching an agreement, because what that number is gonna be really important as we hit October. And what can we afford in terms of how many staff can we afford to pay for?
Yeah,
How do we align our expenses with our revenues and have more revenues than expenses?
Yeah. Thank you, Linda. I know you're working hard on this for us. So I appreciate your turn. Crystal?
so I would just like to echo what everybody else says and say that I'm a firm believer in a balanced budget, and I know that you're working diligently, and I appreciate you bringing like this forthright information to us so that we can mentally prepare for the fall that we have to write the budget. Like, it's coming.
Yeah.
We've seen it over the last several years. This is just reminding us that it has to be at the forefront. And so I would just want to make a statement in the public saying, I know that this is not where we want to be, and I expect to be writing my budget later.
Well, and we don't, luckily, we haven't been the front page of any newspapers lately, and we don't need to be. So that's why
Right.
we're preparing you now, why we're talking about this now. We don't want to be, because we want to have a planned way to balance it. And that's why we're starting now and looking at it and making sure we're ready. Either whatever comes from today forward, or what comes when we're budgeting for next fiscal. We are, pretty much every hire we have on the license side is now a temporary hire for the month, if you haven't been honest, because we don't know if we can keep the position for both. So we're, this isn't the first time that any school district's been in this situation, and so we are trying to use everything we've learned over the years to be careful about it and get by with it.
Yeah. I appreciate all you do, and I just wanted to, do you want to add anything before we move on?
No.
Okay, so I just appreciate it, Linda. I know how diligently and how great, how much detail goes into your numbers, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, headed down to the superintendent report.
You can, it's probably the top one, if you can't, I don't care if it's in presenter mode or whatever is easiest for you. I'm looking at mine as well on my computer here. All right. Well, most of this won't be new or new news to you, but just wanted to share some information of what we've been working on. And so we'll start off with the agreement that we'll be entering into very soon with the city of Hubbard. Their city manager, Sean Waite, presented us with an intergovernmental agreement that we found to be real satisfactory to have the city of Hubbard or the Hubbard Donald Police Department be essentially our official law enforcement agency that we're going to be doing business with. And so we're really excited about that. And Wes Owens here, our Director of Safety and Security, he and I will be at their city council meeting tomorrow. Their city council will have to formally adopt it. Our board does not have to approve this intergovernmental agreement. So we'll be there tomorrow. And I really want to give Wes a lot of credit here on putting this together. Really happened, from my perspective, although everything in my perspective is new. Quickly, I think my bullets here talk about, Wes saw a need, he collected data. That's the kind of leadership we want. We want to say, hey, we see a problem. We want to be able to back that problem up with some data, which he did, and then let's do something about it. And so he reached out to Chief Parisi. They've been having ongoing conversations, involved the city manager. And also want to stress that, we also lead by creating relationships first and then taking care of the details second. And so when you foster positive, trusting relationships and then get into the details, that's how you can solidify really ongoing relationships with whatever entity, parent, group, organization you establish a really positive relationship with them first. Which I think really leads into why this is so promising and we're excited about it, is that we believe this relationship will result in faster response times with law enforcement when necessary. I want to stress when necessary, according to Wes and others. It's not a regular ongoing occurrence that those services are needed, but when they are, we want fast response times. I really think it's important for our students today to develop positive relationships with law enforcement. I think that when you're doing that with a local entity, you have a better opportunity to develop those relationships. Because these are, the Hubbard Donald are where our students live, and these are gonna be law enforcement officers that are gonna be providing, protecting and serving those communities, the communities where our kids live. So I think that this is gonna be a great opportunity there. And then again, going back to the relationships piece, when there's a problem to solve, there are one or two people that we know that we need to reach out to say, hey, we'd like to discuss how the situation could have been handled better, or hey, we are seeing a problem, how can we work collaboratively to solve it? And I can tell you from my half hour to hour meeting with Sean and Chief Breesy, that they are aimed at that same kind of mindset of how do we develop a positive relationship? How do we work together to make, better things for the city, the community, the schools? So I don't know if I want to put you on the spot, Wes, but if you have anything else to add to that, I really want to thank you for putting this together.
Well said with the partnerships and so forth, and you'll hear us say a lot, safety and well-being of our students and staff is our number one priority. To have great partnerships with local agencies is the key to that. And I'm just so pleased with the Donald Hubbard Police Department. They have been awesome. Chief Reese has been great. The communication, the visibility, and them continuing to say they want to be here to support when it's needed it's just been outstanding. And we're very fortunate to have that relationship. I want to thank everybody that was involved in that. It wasn't just me, it was a team effort. Everybody from their side and the district side too. I'm very excited about that.
So I'm gonna pause at kind of these different points. So if there's any questions about this?
So, in the past, we've also had Aurora, the city of Aurora uses Marion County. Sure. Do we still have, are we still engaging with Marion County?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when we talk about doing training, we're including all agencies, not only Hubbard Donald, but the county and any other pertinent.
Correct, because it could be anybody, it could be state police, Marion County,
Yeah.
Hubbard Donald, that could respond to an event here. And we have a relationship. The last, we had it was in June, late June, we had a training, Marion County, this training came to our facility and used that for a K-9. So we're reaching out to them, communicating with them, and actually in September, we'll be having a meeting with one of their commanders to Marion County.
Do we still do active shooter trainings where we're involved?
I'm not aware. Obviously, I started in January, so I don't know when the last one was, but I had a meeting with Chief Breesy today. We have often he's very available and comes around a lot, and we discussed that, just having those conversations. But obviously, that needs to be a conversation that goes through the administration and the board as well before something like that.
Can I ask some more questions? What is your title right now?
Director of Safety and Security.
Okay, so in the past, and this is something we worked out in 2015, because we were concerned about response times, being a rural community. And so our safety and security staff member at that time was trained and did carry, and we actually have policy around this, did carry. Is that something that, can I ask, is that something that we've talked about in our current situation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that like along the lines of the active shooter training and, in terms of Wes's credentials and things like that, I think what we would like to do is schedule an executive session with the board to discuss all of the safety measures that we cover, because these are the types of things that we are allowed to discuss privately, to share.
You can do that in executive, that's what
They added,
It's personnel.
it's a new one.
It's not personnel. Oh, safety, it's cyber security.
Okay.
Yeah, so that there's a lot of things that we could talk about that we wouldn't want to necessarily share publicly that is in the interest of student safety. So I think there's a lot of different things that we could be talking about in an upcoming executive session at some point to the question that you're asking.
Okay,
And other questions that we could address.
okay, that's great. I'm sorry, in the past, this has all been stuff we talked about in the meeting, so I know.
No, it's all, that's a very newer thing, and I think that, we could talk about how share with the board, how would we address certain activities that we wouldn't want, people with ill intent to be aware of. Unfortunately, that is the world we live in where we have to share those things privately, but it's for the safety of our students.
But we can make, for point of order, we can make sure that we get an executive session scheduled for you, Heidi. And the rest of the board.
Don't do that on my behalf. Should be nice to.
Well, just to have it for the information.
Yeah,
But I wanna
I'm
hear.
a little out of date on that, so that'd be good to get updated.
So you can mark it. Any other questions?
On this portion, I got more slides.
Okay.
I have one question, so, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the semantics of the agreement, I'm assuming we're gonna see some presence here when there's larger events going, on the campus. I mean, there's been presence already in terms of, I don't know if it's, third party contract or contractual basis, but I'm assuming that is a component of this agreement is that, as we have ongoing events, and there's a lot of people here, we'll be able to see some presence. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely, and I think you'll see, and I know there's some administrators here too, that as we started this conversation in the spring, you saw more visibility of law enforcement, Hubbard Donald Police here. That is continuing. In fact, our conversation today was just looking at dates, open houses and just all those things where they can not only provide support, but also community outreach. Is a big thing. And comfortability of students and parents and so forth. So I think I know you will see more visibility, but in all arenas, not just, for support when we need it as the community outreach.
Heidi, you had another question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Because we are technically in the county, and I'm just wondering, how does this work? So if there's a crime. And it has to be dealt with here at the school. Can Hubbard do that?
I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I did ask that question, I had that same question, but any law enforcement officer in the state of Oregon can, they often see that, they can do that. And then when you have an agreement like this, then that gives them that opportunity, and they already, and again, I wasn't here like during football games and so forth. Hubbard Donald Police was here and supporting of that and can do law enforcement tactics or arrests or whatever may be outside of their jurisdiction. I guess I would use that. My word, I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, that was a very specific question that we asked both the city manager and Chief Parisi, just to make sure that we were, following, whose jurisdiction are we in, and we both asked that question. And Chief Parisi had no concerns about being able to, if a crime was committed at one of our schools, that they are fully able to respond.
Meryl?
I appreciate the move for that presence, and just to add a little piece there, last year when we met around tables over in the primary school cafeteria, the group I sat with, that was their primary concern. They had other concerns, but safety for their children was the primary concern. I think that's a good step as they see that presence here to allay some of that fear that they have for their safety.
Anyone else? All right, just for the sake of transparency, I'm gonna read a statement into the record. Because I value transparency within my community. So Dan Bush, our superintendent, has seen fit to contract with the Hubbard Donald Police Department to provide our district with law enforcement services in and around our schools. While this is completely the superintendent's decision, In the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I wanted to disclose that my spouse is the mayor of the city of Hubbard. Since the school board is not required to approve this contract, there is no conflict of interest. But transparency dictates that I bring this to the public's attention. The North Marion School District is excited for this relationship to commence, as we believe that this relationship will provide our students, employees, and members of the public on our campuses with a better level of safety and security. In addition to that, I just want to state that Charles and I both have legal advice, and at no time is this a conflict of interest. Thanks.
Well, now I have to ask a question. There's no money involved in this. This is purely an intergovernmental. There's no financial part to this, right?
There is up to $10,000 to reimburse the city of Hubbard, which was, I think, the equivalent amount as to what we were up to for Marion County. So there is some reimbursable up to $10,000
Reimbursed for what?
for officer responses. It's in the IGA.
Yeah.
So if you don't,
Yeah,
mind, I'll give an example, in the past.
I didn't see that.
And Linda can help me out with this, because I was not here during that, like for a football game, Marion County would dispatch officers to a football game for support, as what Hubbard had police officers here too. But then those officers from Marion County would be reimbursed for the services or for their hours that they were at. So that was why there was an up to 10,000, so that did not change with this agreement.
I don't think we've ever hit the 10.
It wasn't an email.
Is it an email? It's not part of the agenda?
So I'll do point of order for just a moment. Diane was still on the board. It's not LinkedIn, so that's the question.
It is LinkedIn.
Okay,
So if you were to go under board communication for the board shout out. It starts on slide 8.
Oh, it's,
I think
okay,
that
it's not like in the,
the IGA itself, is that what the
Yeah.
question? was?
Yeah.
mhm,
Oh, you have it on a meeting though.
It was sent to the board
yeah.
in one of my board days.
Okay.
I can get you a copy if you need one, or
And I can send another one out. for-
Okay. Could you resend that for us? Obviously not this moment, but in the future. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll move on. Jenny?
no, I was just gonna say, I think Dan.
Yep, so. Wanted to review and ask to make sure that, you know, if there's any questions about how we're going about developing agendas and getting agendas published. Especially now that we have moving to 2 meetings a month. And so if board members would like to submit agenda topics, to send them to Crystal and Jenny, Diane and myself. And then we will also notify you whether topics will be added to the agenda. This is, now that I'm reading this, it's sort of out of order a little bit, but. So the Monday preceding the board meeting, cabinet will prepare the agenda on Monday mornings. Board leadership will review them on Monday afternoons. And then the agendas are to be published by the end of the business day on Wednesday. And so in that between time, if an agenda item that a board member requested is not added, then either Crystal or myself will reach out to the board member, letting them know that it was not added. Or, you know, probably maybe a simple text message that is going to be added. And so I think, you know, one of the things, I'm gonna kind of go off topic here a little bit, you know, having 2 meetings a month will allow us to get more topics covered. I think, you know, some of the things that, you know, with the budget issue, that's gonna be a conversation that we are going to continue to need to work through. Obviously, after we get more information in October, you know, just even hearing some of the comments tonight regarding you know, clarity around expectations for staff during election time. That's something, you know, just getting that kind of feedback, that is something that's easy for us to communicate out a 1-pager to all our staff around what's expected, what's allowed, what's not allowed, you know, when it comes to political speech. So I just think having these conversations, getting this kind of feedback is super helpful. for me to be able to be responsive, to make sure, that we are providing, in that context, expectations for staff, for parents, for kids, regarding what's allowed and what's not allowed, in that context of political speech. So I think having more meetings is going to help us get a lot more accomplished. Any questions on this? Is this pretty self-explanatory? Okay. I want to highlight a few important dates. We've already talked about 2 bargaining dates. Really want to thank Linda for helping get those scheduled with the Teachers Association. Want to thank the teachers, even though they're not here, hopefully they will hear. I appreciate them giving up their summer. The next 2 weeks after that, are going to be super busy with teachers coming back. First week of school, so it was really important. I was glad that we got one, was excited that we got 2 sessions scheduled there. So looking forward to meeting with them this Wednesday. We have the staff welcome back on August 27th. Do we have a time for that, that was on my to-do list?
I think breakfast is at 7:45.
Okay. So board members are welcome to attend that. And never underestimate the power of your words is my tentative title for my welcome back address. It's going to be short and sweet, but the importance of how impactful our words can be. And also focusing on that I'm still listening and learning about this district and about its people, and I'm looking forward to people getting back to work so I can listen and learn from our staff. And then our back to school night on Wednesday, the 28th.
So 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
To 6:30.
Yeah.
All right. So apparently this place gets very busy with all the kids and parents coming in and dropping things off.
If you guys do attend, remember the pin I made for you? It'd be nice if you could wear it.
Do you have a pin? If you do not, if you have not received one, it's a magnetic, amazing pin. So if you do not have one, or you cannot find it.
Well, I gave you one when we did the superintendent forum.
Oh, really?
It's a clip-on.
Yeah, it's a pin.
Yeah, it's a flip on.
I don't remember.
Wear your name badge. That's what they're saying, just like everywhere else. Okay.
Next one. All right. So thank you for all of you who did your homework and submitted your policies. So we had 86 policies for review. So when there was 98, and then there was duplicates. So 86 separate policies.
I think there are more than that. A through L.
Oh, these are the ones that are pulled out from.
These are the
Remember the
ones
Google
that are being
Docs?
pulled out for review.
I think we're moving on to different planets.
So there are 86 policies for review. We are sorting these into the following: those that people just had questions about, those that we may need to take to OSBA or other legal advice, and then ones that will be set aside because perhaps a superintendent work group made up of a couple of board members to work on possible revisions. So that's the buckets that I'm putting them into are those. And so and Diane did an amazing job today getting this all organized, took all your after that noon cutoff, she did a great job of getting that all put together. So she was in and out of my office 2 or 3 times today, and it was awesome. And then one more. No, you're good. So at the August 26th work session, our goal is to have all the other policies that you had opportunity to look at be up for adoption on the 26th. So those 86 pulled out, all the other ones recommended for adoption, so that we can get all of our other policies up to date. And then hopefully we will have time, I anticipate we do, that we will have the question, especially that question bucket group that where questions are submitted, that we can have answers for as many of those as possible. And so then if we can kind of clear those up, then we'd have those policies up for the September board meeting for adoption. And then we'll just start cranking through the other two buckets, if you will, that we have to cover. So we're gonna get there. Any questions on this?
I had a question, back a slide, the bargaining. Heidi will still be at those meetings, right? At those two?
Yes.
And then we'll get feedback from that.
Yeah, I would anticipate, on the 26th, possibly executive session to update you on that. So since we'll have 2 full sessions, we'll plan on doing that.
And I just wanna thank you, Heidi, for still being willing to go back to negotiations after all your years of negotiating. So, all right.
Any other questions on the previous slide, Kelsey? Okay, Mara?
I didn't remember there was a 12 o'clock cutoff, so I continued working until 4 today.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but,
I didn't know there was a.
and I'm not finished quite yet, but I understand we can still
Yeah.
bring them back
yeah.
in another venue later. I'll keep working.
We'll go back. We'll go back and add more.
Yeah, I would say I was probably gonna work it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go back.
Yeah, ditto.
On the them and. So it might just be a slip. I only added 2 more though.
Did you add like to the bottom?
Yeah.
Super. What's your policy on late work?
Depends on whether you meet proficiency.
Okay,
All right.
board retreat.
So I took some liberties in terms of interpreting what I was hearing and trying to and get dates on calendars and people to assist. So if this does not hit the mark of what you want for a board retreat, since this is your retreat, then please feel free to speak freely and speak amongst yourselves about what you would like. But this is based on the brief survey I gave you, is to really have an idea about best practices, and that's a really umbrella term for how you're gonna conduct business, how we're gonna conduct business. And I thought that trying to put this into 2 perspectives is to have Elizabeth Boley or Elliott Field. Elizabeth is not sure if she can be there. So I am meeting with Elizabeth and Elliott to talk about what they would provide. I think a general presentation to the board of the general role of the board, common legal pitfalls, and I'm thinking that's like 30 minutes-ish of those 2 things, just a brief overview. I will solicit questions from you that you would like to have Elizabeth or Elliott respond to, so that they can build that, and so probably another 15 or so minutes of answering your direct questions, and then have an opportunity for you based on what they present, how they respond to your questions. Then it can be an interactive conversation between you and Elliott or Elizabeth, or a conversation amongst the board itself around how it wants to conduct business. So does that sound like a good?
Are they gonna be in person or?
They're gonna be in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, the September 10th, that we did the. Work, yeah,
That was a thumbs up for everybody.
yeah, okay. Just clarifying.
For 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good to me. It jogs my mind about a session I went to, a roundtable on board governance, and I told them this is one of the focuses. We had a superintendent board agreement. And they jumped on it. It's a good idea. And sent me a link for some information. With SBA, and I think it's where we want to go.
And so then part 2, so I'm thinking about an hour 45 total for the legal perspective, take a break for dinner. And then have best practices for boards with practical advice and helping develop a board superintendent working agreement. I think having a facilitator would do that. I reached out to Phil Lager, who I go way back with, and he's been on the Scapa School Board for 16 years. He's their current board chair. He's been through a lot of different things. He's been someone that I've reached out to in the past when I can't understand a board perspective. He's really common sense oriented. He's dealt with having high functioning boards, not so high functioning boards. He's had strong superintendents, not so strong superintendents. So he's seen the gamut of things. And he knows the importance of this. And I think he would be a good facilitator to help us develop a strong board superintendent working agreement. Which I think is, I know for me, is there.
Is Phil going to just talk to us about like different things to do, or is he gonna kind of facilitate the actual agreement, like what we want, what you want?
I would say both. I would want, I think having that third party help facilitate.
Yeah.
What the board wants, what I want is helpful. My thought would be to take the last board superintendent agreement that the board had with the superintendent, get a couple other samples. I would work with Phil, I would share some samples out with you, what do you like, what do you not like? Let's try to get as much of the ideas already kind of formulated and come to the table and work together. And I can work with Phil on how he wants to, facilitate that conversation.
And he'll be in person?
Yeah.
Questions?
You'd send us a video of another person.
Yeah, so I had positive feedback from John from Miller Nash. But it was suggested that perhaps there's already an existing relationship with Elizabeth Bolle and and I kind of thought that if having that ongoing relationship might be more positive, Jolly was open to coming down here. But I also thought that having the previous and possibly ongoing relationship with Garrett Keenan Robertson might be worthwhile. And so I didn't have a strong preference on that one.
Anything else?
I was impressed with Elizabeth's presentation of negotiations. So I'm blaming, I'm not an attorney. I'd listen to either one.
Hey, will there be opportunity for us to just have some discussion as a board, just on how we would like to see things go this year? Not just all structured presentations.
I'm spontaneous. I'll say yes.
Yeah. So however we carve up that 4, and I would even say, up to 5 hours to try to accomplish that. I can work with board leadership to make sure the time's allocated. I agree with you, Heidi, that having it entirely structured doesn't allow for kind of free flowing of ideas, which is kind of the point of a retreat. So I definitely don't want to over structure. But I also see the value of facilitation.
Anything else?
Not my last thing.
Maybe.
I think so.
All right, future meetings, topics, and new business. If you could glance over that and send me an email. And copy Dan and Jenny on anything that you may see. It says board training on September 5th, is that still?
No.
Okay, we'll mark it. All right, any other last minute discussions? I'll go around. Robert? Anything?
No.
Heidi?
Thank you.
Meryl?
I just remembered one other thing that I gleaned at the conference, that I'm looking at the clock, and it says it's 7:20. They said to us, if you're not spending at least 2 hours, you're probably not having the kind of conversations that you should have. I don't know that that's always true, or maybe not true at all. One other board member from Multnomah County ESD said our board chair and fine tune the agenda, and we're in and out of there. But I kind of took to heart you're not having the kind of conversations, committee of the whole. You should have, if you do it too,
Right.
for whatever. It's
I would say 90 minutes and 2 hours is the next sweet spot to tackle. I don't think you accomplish much after 2 hours for sure. And I would anticipate our board meetings being in that, my goal would have them in that. sweet
And they
spot,
did
90
make that
minutes to 2 hours.
comment too, that you just wear people out and aren't very productive if you're always going till 9 or 10 o'clock. It's just not
And.
good practice.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Well,
Kelsey,
And there are things.
Glenn? Jenny?
Just a quick thing about future meetings, it says board self-evaluation for August and September, like, is that for real, like August and September and like?
We can make lofty
We have
goals.
goals established first and then maybe, I don't know, and just an idea, that's all.
Okay.
Otherwise, no.
We'll put that on our, keep in the front, forefront. Right. Hearing none, we will gavel down for adjournment at 7:21.